Well, great to have you back with us. A brand new week of the Unash Dukes podcast. And thanks to everybody that is subscribing. We do appreciate it. Those numbers keep going up and up. And thank you so very much for doing that. Scott Unash, Mark Dukes. It is the Unash Dukes podcast coming your way on our page on YouTube, Facebook, crmlivesports.com. Link available at Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. And we are presented as always by Emel's Hideaway in First Avenue Southeast in Cedar Rapids, right across from the Lindale Mall, next to the Home Depot, and open 4 o'clock Monday through Saturday. A classic local American restaurant with a fully stocked bar. They have catering as well. So thanks to Emel's Hideaway. We'll tell you about our great sponsors up and down the line as we take you through the podcast here today. And how are you, Mark? The day after.
Outstanding. Outstanding. The sun's out. I couldn't ask for much more.
Well, you
Well,
could.
I could.
I see seasons have changed according to your headwear.
Yeah, and that isn't going so too good in the off season for the Twins either. But it was a range of emotions last night for the Bears, and I said it all along. It's gravy, I thought, for the Bears because we're not used to seeing this team play in January. And man, that was a good game last night. The Bears certainly had their chances, but so many opportunities, the turnovers. You can point to a lot of different things. The way the Bears, uh, pushed it to overtime. It was just, it was the way the season has gone. It was just unbelievable. But then gave it right back, and I'm glad to see Matt Stafford move along. I don't know if the Rams will beat Seattle, but all in all, it was fun, and you and I were talking. Maybe kick that first field goal, and it would have been different for the Bears. But you never know how things are going to progress. It turned out that was a big 3 points.
Turned out to be a huge, huge 3 points. And before we get into the NFL, it's listen, you get into the playoffs, you take points when you have the opportunity to get points. When you don't, you punt the ball to flip the field. It's all about points and field position in the playoffs. And Ben Johnson made a big mistake. He went for it on the first drive of the game, fourth and what, 2 or 3 on the 28-yard line. It's not a gimme field goal, but it's 80 to 85% that Cairo Santos makes that, right? And it's 3-0. Instead, Rams get the momentum. They go down and score, and the Bears are playing catch up. Buffalo would like to have that ill-fated play before halftime back that gave Denver 3 points. Turned out to be pretty big 3 points. Bears
Yeah,
3 points turned out to be a pretty big 3 points. Um, I we said it in our last podcast. I have yet to figure out analytics in playoffs. There are times you do need to go for it on fourth down. There were a couple over the weekend I completely agreed with, and I get it. When you're behind, yes. When it's fourth down and 1 from the 3 yard line, yeah, you go for it. From the 11 yard line, fourth down half a yard, sure, good opportunity to get it, you go for it. First drive of the game, 4th and 2.5. No, you kick a field goal, Mark. And I think the Bears missed out on an opportunity right there.
yeah. It's like Ben Johnson brought his, Campbell philosophy with him from Detroit. Um, his rival at Detroit is a big gambler, and Bears went for it on fourth down 4 or 5 times, and one of them resulted in the first touchdown, which I agreed with. I think was on the 3 yard line going for it on fourth down. But um, that the first time where I thought maybe should have kicked a field goal and then get stuffed on a couple others. Um, like I said, the Bears had the opportunities, and credit to the Rams for doing what they did.
Yeah. What an amazing weekend it was. Other than one blowout, I think injuries and everything caught up with the San Francisco 49ers. And you put that together with the fact that the Seattle Seahawks, I think Seattle might be the best team out there, Mark. Could be. They're the number one seed in the NFC. They lost the Zach Charbonnet during that game for the rest of the playoffs. That's going to be a big injury for Seattle to overcome, but they have a two-headed monster. Kenneth Walker III, the former Michigan State Spartan, is back there as well. They demolished the San Francisco 49ers, and I kind of thought that might have been the closest game going into the weekend since they knew each other so well with the NFC West games. And it did not turn out to be that way as Seattle won 41-6 with the beat up Sam Darnold in there as well. But what everyone's talking about, Mark, other than the Bears, tremendous comeback, is Denver and Buffalo and the aftershocks and after effects of that game won by Denver 33-30 in overtime. So many things to discuss. And it even goes into today as Sean McDermott was inexplicably let go and fired by the Buffalo Bills today after putting together the best regular season record in the NFL over the span of you told me 2012 was it?
2020. Since
2020.
2020.
Okay,
Yeah.
2020. 8-8 in the playoffs though. Never got to the Super Bowl. And it's all about getting to the Super Bowl, especially when you have arguably the best player in the National Football League at the helm. That was a game for the ages in so many ways, not only for what happened on the field, Mark, but what happened with calls and then the after effects of it now with Sean McDermott being let go, which changes the entire dynamic in the AFC and in the AFC East in particular. I'll ask you, was it a catch or was it an interception?
I don't know. That was one of the controversial plays, and there was a similar one in the Bears and Rams game. But once again, I'm going to go, off on my could be weekly rant in the NFL and the penalty for pass interference in the NFL. It's just ridiculous. The Denver gained 40, 50 yards in two plays for pass interference. I mean, it's just ridiculous to not only decide a game but a playoff game like that. Maybe Denver would have went down and scored anyway. I don't know, but I hate to see that. I think officials are under so much scrutiny now because you go down and the film, you break it down to 1/100th of a second type stuff. And those guys can't see 1/100th of a second on the field, but yet they're vilified because they miss these calls. I'd hate to make those calls in a fast moving game like that, in elements, and it just, they don't get enough credit for the right calls that they make, but replay is not the official's friend, that's for sure. And we can debate, what this or that, but we have the benefit, Scott, of that replay that breaks it down to the millisecond. And, once again, officials don't have that luxury.
And you're right. And we have said it before. And I've been on my soapbox so many times. And it's to have perhaps the world's most popular sport. And I don't know if it is European soccer. It's European soccer, NFL, 1A and 1B. I mean, we're right on that. Correct, Mark? I mean, that's the two most popular sports in the world at this
Yeah,
point.
in America, there's a no-brainer. There's a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
and in America, it is the NFL. It is king. To still have in 2026 the NFL officials not being, all full time is just to me absolutely stupid and ludicrous. They are in Major League Baseball. They are in the NBA. They are in the NHL. I don't know about Soccer, I haven't checked into that. It's and the problem comes from so many different levels. It's you mentioned the Ram Bear game last night. You had basically the same play, and it was called exactly the opposite. And I get it. There are people out there that are going to say, Scott, well, what about ball strike calls with umpires? Some umpires have a little bit different zone than other umpires. Yes, but it's still, you throw the ball some even over the plate or on the black, it's going to be a strike. I mean, that's a black and white situation right there. With the NFL, we need to make it more black and white. I always thought if you caught the ball, you hit the ground, guy touched you, it's a catch, except for Calvin Johnson and maybe Des Bryant. Sorry, Packer fans. Sorry, Cowboy fans. To have pass interference calls in the Buffalo Denver game and not in the New England Houston game or the Chicago LA game that were just as egregious or worse, and they are let go. What is right? What is wrong? We need to get together and come up with this, but we can't because they're going to go to their day job. So we can't do this.
That touchdown catch that Cole Kmet had and that desperation pass, he might have pushed off. He probably,
Oh, he did, but the other guy was on him
that
too.
might have been offensive PI. Listen, I think NFL officials should be full-time too, but that's not going to mean they're going to be perfect. As you know, baseball and all other umpires that are full-time, they're not perfect. That's one reason baseball is instituting the automated strike zone next year, to try to get it right. I don't know. Maybe the next college football commissioner can also take on the NFL's job, officiating job. I don't know, because there's a lot of questions to be answered. But to me, get the rules right first. For the life of me, I don't understand this pass interference penalty and why it isn't like college. The only thing I can figure out is that it is a deterrent against just flagrant pass interference, and it's only 15 instead of 50 yards. That's the only thing that I can figure out. But the replay, as great as it is, I think it's as much a problem, especially in the fan bases, because you see it all the time. Just go up on Twitter, any game yesterday, there's going to be clips, slowed down to the nth degree. Oh, this was a catch. This wasn't a catch. Why wasn't this called? Back and forth. I don't know if we're ever going to get away from that.
Well, it's WWE wrestling on the lines right now in the playoffs. You can do whatever you want, and they are not going to call holding unless
I thought we agreed there were going to be no WWE references on this show.
Unless it is so ungodly blatant in the middle of the field with everybody seeing it and the crowd reacting is the only. To be honest with you, Mark, the Bears held on the touchdown pass that was caught by Kmet on the left side.
I'm not going to dispute that.
They held amazingly on that play. And there were so many others. It's just to the point now, just grab a guy. I mean, there are still photos of guys with their arms underneath the neck of others, of the defensive linemen. It is just, it's a free-for-all in there.
Williams took a shot to the head on one play as well. I mean, you can point to a lot of things.
They're not calling things. They're letting the players dictate who comes out on top, which then goes to why in the world do you call pass interference twice in that situation against the Buffalo Bills? That's another thing I have a problem with.
Yeah.
If you got to keep it a little bit level, consistency, and it's not consistent in there.
It's two bad jobs in the NFL. One is officials and two is defensive backs.
Those
Those
poor
are
guys.
those are two unenviable jobs.
Those poor guys. So the officials had a tough weekend. Uh, CJ Stroud had a tough weekend. People down on him. Um, had Houston turned it over left and right against the New England Patriots. Probably could have won the game pretty easily, but New England came out on top, 28-16. We talked about the Rams in overtime, beating Chicago 20-17. What an atmosphere, though, in Chicago. Uh,
Yeah.
Credit those fans for going out there in those temperatures and doing what they did. I mean, that was just that was epic. So you've got Denver without Bo Nix now, who on the second to last play of the game broke a bone in his foot, and he is out for the rest of the playoffs, even though he stayed out there. But that was a shocker. I actually thought that was probably false news when it came down.
Yeah.
I had to look at it 3 or 4 times in different places to see if that was actually the truth. So it'll be Jared Stidham quarterbacking the Denver Broncos against the New England Patriots. And then you've got Seattle taking on the Rams in their third matchup of the year. So, yeah, really good championship games. Would have been better with Bo Nix, obviously. I mean, Denver's going to have to ugly that thing up and win this thing 10-7, I think. And I think they could because the Patriots aren't going to come out and flinging the ball all over the place either. So that Denver defense is going to have to be coming up in a big way. But NFL has had great playoff games so far, and we'll see if they get 2 more next week.
I'm looking for a coast-to-coast Super Bowl, Scott. New England and Seattle.
I'm not so sure Seattle's not the best team. Of course, I jinxed my Houston Texans.
Yeah. My
Oh,
heart's with Stafford, though. My heart is with Stafford.
yeah, you'd like to see Stafford, I think, win a Super Bowl. Does he go off into the sunset if he wins the Super Bowl? I think he does.
He may. Yeah.
I think he does. Rides off into the sunset, and Sean McVay carrying him off into the sunset. But Rams got to beat Seattle first, and I'm not sure they're going to go up and beat Seattle. But is there a better player in the NFL than Puka Nacua?
Boy, he's not more of a clutch player, I don't think.
I
I
mean,
think
that
he
guy
led
is,
the league. He led the league in receptions and yards, I think,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. He's tough. He's so tough.
he gets open all the time. He knows what to do with the ball. If he needs 7 yards, he gets 8.
Yep.
Jet sweeps. He was terrific last night when he had to get a first down. He had to get a lot of yardage on first down to make it second and short. In a key situation, he did that. So, I mean, that guy is just amazing for where he was drafted by the LA Rams, and what a job they did. So, you can get ready for baseball with the rest of us and watch the Dodgers beat up everybody.
It won't be long. It
It won't
won't.
be.
But we got a basketball and wrestling season to continue though. So except for a little college football game tonight, but you know we're gonna segue into the next seasons here real quick, full time.
True. Very true. Hey, before we get to tonight, let's give a tip of the hat to our great sponsors. We told you about Emel's Hideaway on First Avenue Southeast in Cedar Rapids. Dr. John Woolner at Epiphany Dermatology on Council Street Northeast in Cedar Rapids. Thanks to Doc for helping us out. Kurt Gustafson Agency of American Family Insurance. And of course, he is the sponsor of our Mark Ironside segment on Wednesdays. And that should be interesting and entertaining coming up on Wednesday. So we will look forward to that in our next edition of the Unash and Dukes podcast. Kurt, located on Johnson Avenue Northwest, right across from the Johnson Avenue Hy-Vee on the northwest side. Big thanks as well to Todd Hunt at Hunt Graphic Innovations. And they are terrific over there, whether you're serious about creating an eye-catching website or need assistance in graphic design for print, newsletters, posters, signs, or banners. Hunt Graphic Innovations Innovations is the place to go. And Bim Ritter Sportswear at 817 2nd Avenue Southeast in Cedar Rapids. And they're online at bimritter.com or call 364-3479. And they're your one-stop store for screen print and embroidery for polos, t-shirts, hats, and more. So thanks to Gary for helping us out here on the Unash and Dukes podcast. Well, Mark, did you ever in your mind, when you were covering the Big Ten football during the day, that you would ever utter the words national champion Indiana Hoosiers?
No, because that was one of the losingest, if not the losingest programs in the country. And, many people, including ourselves, have talked about this turnaround under Kurt Signetti, and it's just remarkable. And I personally think that Indiana is going to get it done tonight and cement itself into the annals of college football history. And, of all the programs that I could have guessed 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it wouldn't have been Indiana, because about all Indiana had in football was Lee Corso, Antoine Randall, Anthony Thompson. I mean, who do you think about? Who comes to mind when you talk about Indiana sports history? It's usually basketball, right? I mean, Larry Bird, Steve Alford,
Bobby
Bob
Knight.
Knight, yeah. But there's not much in football, I can tell you. But Cub fans will tell you it's Kyle Schwarber's home state, even though he doesn't play for the Cubs anymore. But he's a Cub legend. But Kyle Schwarber from Indiana, but I can't think of too many, great athletes that come out of Indiana. But this team and Fernando and Mendoza, they're going to be remembered for a while, win or lose, but especially if they win.
If they win, I mean, this is the stuff that Hollywood scripts are made of. I mean, there was obviously Hoosiers, arguably, and we've had this discussion before on our Friday topics back in the day, greatest sports movies ever. Hoosiers is right up there. Is there a Hoosiers 2, the fall edition with Kurt Signetti? And
I
if
don't know who plays
Indiana,
Shooter. Where's Shooter? Where's Shooter in this program? I
the
don't
picket
know.
fence, where's the picket fence?
They
Nothing
might
like
run
that.
that. They might run that tonight.
They could. With Kurt Signetti, and somebody asked me, where do you put this turnaround for Indiana in college football ease? Um, and they are an Iowa State fan, and they asked, is this, like an Iowa State coming out and getting to a national championship game? And I said, no, because I think Iowa State has a better football program than Indiana. Even back in the day when Earl Bruce was there, I mean, Iowa State went to bowl games. I mean, Indiana didn't even go to bowl games, Mark. I mean, this was maybe even as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. There were barely 15,000 people at Memorial Stadium to watch a football game. People would go and buy tickets and sit wherever they wanted to for an Indiana football game. They couldn't get people there. I mean, Bill Mallory had a couple of good seasons at Indiana, but that was well after Lee Corso and the late 70s into the early 80s for Indiana. You're right. I'm not sure. You got to think Thompson and Antoine Randall are the two legendary Indiana football names until this year. Fernando Mendoza, though, I think he's the most recognizable Indiana Hoosier at this point. But it's not all him. This is a team that is it's a team that doesn't have a lot of household names if you're outside the Midwest. But man alive, do they play football well. And they've got each other's back. They execute. They don't make mistakes. Kurt Signetti will not allow them to make mistakes. He said that before. He can tell you from 3 years ago at James Madison what happened on a 3rd down and 6 play that didn't go right. And he'll tell you point blank what happened. But it's just a remarkable, remarkable thing. Kansas State was probably worse than Indiana, right, Mark?
Till Bill Snyder got there. Yep.
Correct.
They were awful. I mean, I can't think of uh, a more impressive turnaround than this one. I just can't. I mean, you think about the Big Ten, even Northwestern has arguably until the last couple of years a better program. Um, Granted, for years in the '80s and '90s, they were one of the country's worst. But in Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt had been down for a long, long time. They were a doormat, and all of a sudden they've been pretty good the last couple 3 years. But with the transfer portal, I think, and NIL, you're going to see this. I mean, Mark Cuban's throwing a lot of money at Indiana football now. A lot of programs don't have a Mark Cuban. Most of them don't, and I think he's coming along here recently. But even before that, Signetti used the transfer portal very wisely with his James Madison players and others, and then he picked up, Mendoza, and he's already restocking for next year with a brand new quarterback, a wide receiver like Nick Marsh from Michigan State, and on and on and on. So I think the rules and the climate of college football, you're going to be able to do that maybe a little easier. It's not easy by any means, but a little easier than, in the '80s and '90s. It's just a different climate, and there's certain advantages when you have money and scouts that bring in great transfers. You
Very
can
true.
turn around a program a lot quicker.
With that being said, does Indiana win the national championship in football?
I think it does. I'm really impressed with what Miami has done. Mario Cristobal has he's got experience winning national championships, and there's no question Miami's playing the best it has all year right now. It really hit a funk in the middle of the year in the ACC, but this is a very aggressive football team. Carson Beck, he can go off at any time, and what a story that would be. Him leaving Georgia and making $4 or $5 million a year, and it pays
Not
off.
going to class, apparently.
That, isn't that something?
Oh,
That
I've
was
said
that
it.
was a great that was a great question in a news conference. If you missed it out there, asked him if he had class yesterday or whenever it was. No, I haven't had class in 2 years. He hasn't had a class in Miami, and he's a starting quarterback.
Online stuff, but I've said next thing coming down the line is college athletes aren't going to go to class, and it's coming. It's coming. I don't think this is going to be easy. I think people are underestimating the U a little bit. Number one, this is a home game. Now, it's not going to be a typical home game because it's not going to be, 50,000 Miami fans there at Hard Rock. It's going to be a lot of corporates, but there are going to be a lot of Miami people there. Probably going to be a lot of Indiana people there, as many as they could get tickets for. But it's still going to be predominantly, I would imagine, 65%, 65% Miami for this game. I got to think in their backyard. So it's not going to be easy. They got two NFL defensive ends. It's not going to be easy. They've got a good quarterback. They've got a good line led by a guy that's a top 5 draft choice. This is a Miami team that was top 5 in the preseason. This is not going to be a cakewalk for Indiana. I do think Indiana, in the end, is going to win this thing, but I think it's going to be a close game. Let's hope to God there is not an official's call that will interfere in the outcome of the ball game tonight.
I love Indiana's offensive line, and I think that's where the game's going to be won. Despite the fact Miami's got an excellent defense, Indiana's offensive line has seen similar teams, and I just think Indiana has it's not necessarily destiny, but Cignetti will have things buttoned up. Mendoza is a smart guy. He doesn't make many mistakes, and I just think I don't know. It's not going to be a blowout, but it's not going to be real close. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, just my opinion. And thankfully, the season will come to a close here on January 19th, and then we'll get on to other things. But I'm going to watch, and got to be the third straight year the Big Ten will have won a national title if Indiana pulls it off.
Yep.
We'll get Paul Feinbaum on the show Wednesday to talk about it.
After
No,
Mark. After Mark. Speaking of that, happy MLK Day to everybody out there. Before we depart here, Mark,
yeah.
little college basketball. Not a good week for Iowa State. A good week for the Iowa men. Iowa State falls to number 9 in the men's basketball poll after 2 losses, including one to Cincinnati. And again, I apologize. I hope that remember what I did to the Iowa State women when I said they were going to beat Cincinnati. And now the season's off the rails for the Iowa State women for the moment. They'll get some people back and they'll get better. I think it's going to be a tough one against UCF on Tuesday night for Iowa State. At home, should win. Should win. I'm not going to say they're going to win. Then at Oklahoma State, it's doable the next 5 or 6 games for Iowa State. I think they're going to get back on track. It's too good of a team not to get it back on track. They got to refocus on the defensive end, which is kind of letting them down as of late. Momcilovic has been hot from 3, but other than that, they haven't been hot from 3. Just hopefully not the blueprint of what happened last year to Iowa State at this time when started dropping a few games and ended up falling out of the second round of the tournament. I think this team I don't think they're going to allow that happen 2 years in a row. Iowa, what a win Saturday. I thought they matched up well against Indiana, Mark, and boy, they did match up well against Indiana.
As far as Iowa State goes, I think this is a team that still can do some damage, but it's surely not invincible now. And this is a tough league, man. You're worried about Arizona and Houston and Texas Tech and others, and then you lose to a downtrodden Kansas team and a more downtrodden Cincinnati team, both on the road, granted. I really expected Iowa State to bounce back against Cincinnati, and it didn't. TJ Otzelberger is too good a coach to let this linger for very long, but it comes on the leadership of Lipsy and others to get this thing turned around quickly. But I was surprised at that Cincinnati loss. I was surprised that Iowa beat Indiana. But I think you really nailed it. It was a good matchup for Iowa, unlike the Purdue game, in which Iowa played well. But Sturts was Sturts. Tavian Banks has just come alive. And, people know about him having a virus or an illness or some kind, but, sign up the rest of the team for that virus or illness because he's really, really playing well. And it was a victory that Iowa needed. Really surprised with the play Indiana. I didn't think Tucker DeVries looked very good. I didn't think the whole team looked all too good. And, maybe Iowa's defense had something to do with that because Iowa does get after it on defense on the defensive end.
I really don't know. I'm not sure the thinking behind Darren DeVries. Tucker DeVries on the perimeter is just not what I would do.
Yeah.
I mean, he can hit the 3. Granted, he can hit threes, and he did in the game, but you got to get him in open spaces, get him going in the lane a little bit, let him do a lot of things. And I just did not understand the strategy that Coach DeVries came up with that for the game on Saturday. But it's not a season saver for Iowa. But I mean, you and I were thinking 2-5 when Iowa comes back from
Yeah.
Indiana, and now it's 3-4 with a very winnable game tomorrow night against Rutgers, who's not very good, to be honest with you. Iowa should be 4-4 after the game on Tuesday night at home. So, that ups you a little bit from not only a seed line position, but also from staying off of that very, 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 very slippery slope called the bubble. Yeah, there's still a long way to go for Iowa and Iowa State, but that was a big, big win in Bloomington because that's going to look good on your resume if you are on that bubble, especially if you're going up against an Indiana who's also on that bubble or other teams like that.
Yeah, no doubt. And not only important for breaking a losing streak, but a quad one win on the road. And now you've got a nice little stretch of on the schedule. You play tomorrow night against Rutgers, and then you got a week off before you play again at home against Southern Cal, and then you make a West Coast trip. But it's nice. It's not a you know 3 games in 8 days type thing. So I think this is a nice stretch for Iowa to get a couple of victories and maybe head to the West Coast and have some success.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and USC is okay. Certainly not a world beater, but it won't be easy next week. But you got to get Rutgers first, and before you start thinking about USC. So a couple of big games tomorrow evening. And hey, before we go, my heart is saddened today with the
Oh,
announcement of Wilbur Wood at 84 passing away. The That's officially the end of an era, Mark. There's We lost Wakefield. There are no knuckleballers out there anymore, and the world is better with knuckleballers.
left-handed knuckleballer. Uh, he was fun to watch, no doubt about it. And yeah, that I don't know. I think there's a couple these days in Major League Baseball, but it used to be Hoyt Wilhelm and Wilbur Wood. Boy, catching some floaters.
And they could pitch both ends of a doubleheader,
They could.
and gladly would have.
Yeah.
Wilbur Wood passing away at the age of 84, White Sox legend, and that announcement was made on Sunday night, and that was not a good way to close out the weekend. We're closing out this edition of the Unash Dukes podcast. Big thanks to Emel's Hideaway, our presenting sponsor, Kurt Gustafson Agency of American Family Insurance, Bim Ritter Sportswear in Cedar Rapids, Hunt Graphic Innovations, and Dr. John Woolner at Epiphany Dermatology. And we will, speaking of Kurt, we'll talk to Mark Ironside on Wednesday. We'll talk to Mark Ironside on Wednesday.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I've got to edit my questions because I'm not sure which ones I want to ask, but I got some time. Look forward to that on Wednesday.
I assume that he made it out of the lake.
Oh yeah, the plunge. That's right.
Got to find out about that too. That may have been the most pleasant thing on Friday night, because the thing at Carver didn't go real well, for
No,
sure. It
no.
didn't. All right, Mark. Adios. We'll see you next time.
Talk later, man.
All right. This has been the Unash and Dukes podcast. Thanks for taking it in, listening, and viewing, and we'll talk to you next time.